Hey guys, I'm Tiffany, and today I'm going to be talking about what I read in January. So the first book I read was On the Fence. So Charlie is a tomboy. She has her dad and 3 brothers. She's super sporty and she's very competitive. Along with her brother, she has her neighbor and longtime best friend Braden. But because Charlie is a tomboy, she just really doesn't know how to be a girl. But then she gets this speeding ticket, so she has to pay it off on her own. She has to work at this boutique, and at this boutique, she starts to become a little bit more of a girl, more into the things she hasn't really experienced since her only real interactions have been with guys. And because she's getting a little bit more girly, there's this guy who's kind of into her. And she decides she's not going to reveal how girly she's being and just kind of living this new sort of identity she's never lived before, so she hides this from her family. So because she's so stressed out about lying, she talks to Braden by the fence that separates their backyards. And with these conversations, she starts to fall for Braden. Casey West books typically have a good concept but a poor execution, and this book is definitely no exception. The story didn't work for me. I wasn't engaged with the characters. The fact that she was hiding who she was becoming was pretty dumb. I still find it so weird, brothers finding out that a friend of theirs and a friend of their sisters have an issue with him liking her. You can't control your sister, and you can't control this guy. Like, I just don't like that. To sum it up, this book was bad. It's not worth reading. The next book I read was The Villain Boyfriend. In this book, Gia's boyfriend Bradley goes ahead and breaks up with her right before prom. She's had some issues with her friends. One of the girls is kind of a frenemy and has been talking to her friends saying she's making it up that she even has a boyfriend in the first place. To prove that she does, Gia goes ahead and talks to this guy that happens to be in the parking lot. And so he is filling in as her boyfriend. She wants to fix things with Bradley, but after prom night, she's actually thinking about the fill-in boyfriend. Then she has to fill in as a girlfriend for this fill-in boyfriend. So they just start kind of going in a fake relationship, and then Bradley comes back into the picture and exposes Gia. Honestly, the fill-in boyfriend didn't have an intriguing description, but I decided to read it because it was a free audiobook. Boy, was it a waste of time. Gia is such a shallow person, and then the villain boyfriend has 0 personality. I do not like stories that focus on the popular girls. They're already living the spotlight. Do we need to hear about them in books too? I was not into the fake relationship. The conflict was dumb. The characters were awful. The book just was not a good time. Next, I read Cinder. In this book, we've got both humans and androids, and there's this deadly plague that is affecting the population. And there are these people in space called Lunars who are superhuman, they've got abilities, and they're ready to make their move. They're watching Earth and they're like, time to go ahead and do something. Mess them up even more. The main character is Cinder. She is a second-class citizen because she's a cyborg. She has a hand missing and a foot missing. Her stepmother is pretty terrible to her. One of the stepsisters she has gets the plague, and then Cinder is blamed for it. Then she meets Prince Kai. There's an android Kai wants fixed. He recruits Cinder since she's the best mechanic they have. So she goes to work at the palace, and she meets this doctor, and there's a lot of reveals about her past and who she is. I love fairy tale retellings. I really enjoy them. But this one, it ain't it, chief. So I read this through audiobook, and honestly, it's the only way I'd be able to get through this book. It is so boring. We've got cyborgs, aliens, and a plague. That is so interesting, right? No, it's not. You go through 448 pages, but then it's just a setup for the rest of the series. Like, this book had nothing going for it. I was very disappointed with the chemistry between Prince Kai and Cinder since it was 0. Non-existent! This was different in comparison to other Cinderella retellings where it's like they only meet at the ball. But in this one, she meets him at the beginning. So I'm like, oh, well, we're gonna have the relationship set up, see why they like each other. Nope. Especially considering the fact that a big criticism of the Cinderella fairy tale is that it's just insta-love. I was figuring that with this book, they do something to fix it. Prince Kai is drawn to her in 2 seconds flat. There is no rhyme or reason for him to be interested in Cinder since he has no chance to get to know her at all. With no romantic attention in book 1, I can't suspend my disbelief that Prince Kai cares for Cinder beyond just being a citizen. So when Prince Kai defies Queen Lavana's demands and saves Cinder, potentially dooming all of humanity, it does not have the same effect it would if there was an actual connection between the two characters. Yeah, I know that Cinder can't just die in book 1, but the way that her life was spared was totally unwarranted. I've heard so much about the chemistry between Prince Kai and Cinder, and now that I've read book 1, I'm not impressed. I can't judge the following books in the Lunar Chronicles, but if the connection between Prince Kai and Cinder is solely reliant on book 1, then when the time comes for them to get together, it will not be deserved. I appreciated in this book that one stepsister was good like how it is in the Disney Cinderella sequels. Though she wasn't in the book for long, I did like Peony. She was sweet and provided Cinder with proper human connection. I enjoyed Aiko, though I wish I could have seen her more. Honestly, she was my favorite character. The reveals in this book are so obvious. Legit, all I knew about this series is that it has fairy tale retellings and it has space and aliens. Upon reading this and the plot twist, I'm just like, Marissa, you gotta do better with your reveals. I started this book because of the hype, and the only reason I got through it is because I wouldn't let the book beat me. Coming into this, I thought this would be a new series for me, but I hated this book. There's no way I'm gonna continue with the Lunar Chronicles. Next book I read was The List. In this book, there's this list at this school. 2 girls from each grade are picked. One is named the prettiest and one is the ugliest. The girls that are picked become the center of attention, and the book follows each character as they react to this. I decided to read this book because I gave it away a couple years ago and I wanted to see if it was worth reading. The verdict? A complete, utter waste of time. It was difficult to distinguish between each girl, and it was even harder to care about them since they lacked any real personality. The list didn't even have direction, plot, or conclusion. It just left the reader hanging with no resolution. There were really only 2 characters I liked, and that was the gothic girl and the guy who liked her. The gothic girl protested being named the ugliest girl by just giving up. She didn't shower, she didn't brush her teeth, she didn't do anything hygiene related. She tried to be tough, but it was clear it really bothered her, and the guy who liked her was trying to help her, and even though at first she was not into it, it was really cool to see them connect and for him to help her. Moral of the story, don't be a jerk who makes a list about girls. It's not cool. The next book I read was The Kiss Quotient. This book was not for me. I only read this book because of the 12 Friends 12 Books challenge. I wasn't too sure about this book going into it, but I decided to give it a try. Big mistake. Huge. This book had nothing going for it. The romance was terrible. I didn't like the characters. This book also really didn't have a plot, which I really don't like books where it's only character driven. That's it? No. You lost me there. If you like a book like this, good for you, but it's definitely not for me. The next book I read was Moment of Truth. In this book, Hadley is a swimmer and she's working really hard to get scholarships for college. During a swim meet, there's this guy who has this mask of Heath Hall, this action hero in movies. He messes her up, and because of that, she is like, well, I'm not gonna let this guy mess me up again. So she goes ahead and she reaches out to him. The only thing is, she doesn't know who he is. Hadley and her best friend go on a search to discover just who exactly is this fake Heath Hall. During this process, she also discovers how she's feeling about her family with her late brother, how she's going about her life if she's making mistakes, and then who she's falling in love with. The ending of this book was fantastic, but the rest of the book was too bad to give it 2 stars. I really liked the emotional parts of this book. What the mask represented and the dynamic with her family. Unfortunately, that was not a big part of the book. Most of it was just talking with guys, trying to figure out who fake Keith Hall is. It was boring. I couldn't care less about these people. I was very curious about who it was. I predicted the ending when I got to chapter 10, so I was not surprised at all. I did like the chemistry between the guy she liked, but the story was just not engaging. I do have to praise this book though, because one subplot in this book actually inspired me to come up with a new story concept, so I gotta give credit there. Next book I read was 99 Days. Officially the worst book of 2021. What? Trash. Horrible. Awful. I don't even want to look at this book. It's so bad. 99 Days follows Molly Barlow as she returns to her hometown after being away for a year. She has had a mark on her back ever since her mom revealed Molly two-timed her boyfriend with his brother. She starts the summer off with Gabe until she discovers Patrick is in town. She must sort out her feelings for both brothers and work through the treatment she's been served by her community. Train wreck. Wow, what a book. This is January we're talking about, and I've already found the worst book of 2021. 99 Days actually has a message. You just have to get to the last 20 pages of the book. The whole time I was reading this book, I couldn't understand why it was made to begin with. Molly straight up sucked. Gabe was questionable, Patrick was a total jerk, and Julie was so stinking nasty. The only good characters were Imogen and Tess. The author wanted to address a double standard. That's fine. But can't there be some redeeming qualities about Molly? She never learned from her mistakes. She blamed everyone but herself, and she did not genuinely apologize. She repeatedly cheats both emotionally and physically. One good thing about this book was the exploration of the boy's attraction to Molly. It was more about being competitive and beating the other brother rather than actually being interested in her. Given all the cheating and the emotional roller coaster this book was, I'm so glad she didn't end up with anyone. At the end of the day, this book is a waste of time. Not only that, it is a book worth throwing out the window. If you love yourself at all, don't pick up this book. The next book I read was Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry. I definitely enjoyed this book. We follow Quinn, a girl who writes these lists. What she loves, what she regrets, what she's embarrassed by. All her secrets go into this notebook, but one day her notebook goes missing. Then an anonymous person publicly releases one of her lists. She's blackmailed with one of her own lists. She has to take risks that she's jotted down in her notebook. She teams up with Carter, this boy who was last known to have her notebook. This book was not so much plot-driven as character-driven. It was nice to see the dynamics between Quinn and Carter, how they interact and make each other grow. This book is not groundbreaking in terms of where the plot goes. Most of it you can predict pretty early on, but the book is more about how Quinn transforms herself. She's able to face her fears and bring more people into her life. While this book does have sweet and lighthearted moments, it is deep and encourages a conversation. If you think you wouldn't be interested in this book, I strongly encourage you to give it a try. This is not a book I would have picked up if it wasn't for NetGalley, but I'm glad I did. The last book I read was The Bookworms Guide to Dating. So Kinsley is this girl, she really likes to read, and she just hasn't found the right guy for her. Then Josh, her brother's best friend, goes ahead and plays matchmaker. She goes on dates he's orchestrated for her, and he helps her be more dateable. I thought this book would be good, but it was a pain to get through. Kinsley and Josh pining for each other was enjoyable, but once they got together, it was so boring. The central conflict being the brother's creepy possession of Kinsley's love life was so sophomoric. Colton and Josh are almost 30. This is ridiculous. I read this through audiobooks, so the only good thing really was the narration. This was not a book that I enjoyed. I did not like the characters. I did not like the conflict. The direction of the book was not my thing. And that is what I read in January. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe.